Welcome to Oracle's Trending Topics discussion. Today, we're exploring the latest trends and best practices around the incredibly important topic of cloud and mobile security. I'm Doug Smith, Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Oracle. We're fortunate to have a rich set of ecosystem partners on the leading edge of innovation, who are not only industry leaders tackling today's challenges, but have important perspectives on what we should expect in the future and how best to prepare, manage risks, and take advantage of the opportunities. Joining me today are Jaime Fox from Deloitte, JT Keating from Zimperium, and my Oracle colleague, Johnnie Konstantas. Welcome, Jaime, JT, and Johnnie. Thank you very much for joining. To start, can I ask you, tell us a bit about yourself and your current role?
So I'm Jaime Fox, and I'm a partner in our cyber practice at Deloitte. I've been at Deloitte for about 20 years now, really focused in the tech sector. And predominantly, I help our clients really from a cyber M&A perspective. So as they acquire other organizations, they often look to us to help them with their cyber due diligence. I also have the luxury of wearing yet another hat. I am also our Oracle security leader and helping, again, clients really move to the cloud and addressing the security, compliance, and controls requirements that they need to deal with. And I would say just lastly, and probably the most important role is I am our Women in Cyber leader. So really instilling that program and making sure that we are having a mentorship program for our women consultants and making sure that we're pulling women through and that we're looking at what their goals are, making sure that we keep moving them to leadership positions. So glad to be here today, Doug.
Fantastic, Jaime. Thanks. JT?
Great to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. JT Keating. I run marketing and product strategy for mobile security company Zimperium. We're on protecting about 1 billion devices worldwide. I've been in cybersecurity, particularly endpoint security, for 25 years. And so I basically run the marketing and strategy side of the organization, including analyst relations and the like. And most noteworthy for this conversation, the threat research, threat marketing side of things. So I'll be bringing some of that to bear as well. So thanks for having me, Doug.
Absolutely. Johnnie, thanks again for joining us.
Of course. And my thanks right back to my colleagues here at Deloitte and Zimperium, our partners. I have the privilege of running cloud security field engineering here at Oracle. It is an incredible group of people that help the customers of our public cloud do everything from ideation, envisioning, all the way to implementation. We help our customers architect secure and run secure. I myself have been in security since the late 90s, so I guess 24 plus years now. And it has been just an incredible career, but the learning never stops. And hopefully we'll all do some learning here together today.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump in. So I always find that, starting the discussion with a little context can be helpful. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how has the landscape for cloud and mobile security changed in the last number of years? And maybe in particular, what do you see as a greater emphasis around cybersecurity among customers and partners now compared to years past?
So, Doug, I would say that, today the most common attacks and the trend that we continue to see is the rise in ransomware. Predominantly we have seen a lot of it from a financial gain perspective, but I think we're seeing a significant transition from data theft for financial gains to more true disruption. I'd say this is especially when you look at organizations that are in, operate a lot of more operational tech and OT. So locking down those systems, that infrastructure, so that you truly cannot operate your industrial control systems, that is incredibly more disruptive, and quite frankly, it's more impactful to the adversary. And I would say, the reality is that organizations are still getting breached. It's just across a wider set now of digital assets. And then lastly, I would say from a cybersecurity maturity perspective, we are seeing it move from, really more alert-based to more of a deep analysis in order to detect unique threats out there today.
That's great. JT, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Jamie is talking about right there. To me, it's interesting because we've all been doing, cybersecurity for years and years, and it's a Rubik's cube, right? I mean, if you get the blue side right, then the orange side gets kind of jacked up, and you're just constantly moving it around. So you got the threats on the one side, which we're going to be talking about. You've got the different architectural approaches. I mean, obviously, right now, one of the big buzzwords is zero trust. For instance, and so what's happening is not only is the threat side coming in one direction, but the how do we protect ourselves and what needs to be protected is coming in differently. On the mobile side of things, the simplest thing I would say that's changing is the definition of an endpoint. An endpoint has historically been a traditional Windows or Linux, operating system, but now it's iOS, Android, Chromebooks, IoT, as Jamie was starting to talk about. So I think it makes these things extremely much more complex, much more fluid. And then to Jamie's point, you can't just deal with alerts. If you're just dealing with alerts, then we've all seen that craters under its weight. And it craters under its weight when we're dealing with traditional endpoints. When you start talking about potentially billions of IoT or industrial IoT, endpoints, you have to take a totally different approach. So those are just some of the things that I've been seeing are some changes.
And ideally, you'd rather get ahead of an alert, right? Because an alert means that something's happened. I'll add to that kind of the journey to cloud perspective. When I first started my career in security, everybody was, every enterprise, every person was trying to do it themselves, right? Build security in your own network, in your data center, your own, pile on the tooling, figure it out. If you were lucky, you would go collaborate with some colleagues. It is a totally different mindset now. There is no customer to whom I speak that doesn't have a public cloud strategy for security, believe it or not, and even a multi-cloud public cloud strategy for security. And the why is, it should be self-evident, right? You have customers now understanding that they can avail themselves, be the beneficiaries of all the resourcing that public cloud providers have to put into, a secure, homogeneous design, lots of built-in tools, resources for research, resources for 24/7 monitoring. And I guess most importantly, if you think about it, as public cloud providers, we're in it with our customers, we're in it together. And so that, I think, is the good news side of the security picture, because I know we certainly have to reconcile a lot of bad news out there.
Yeah, so what do you see as maybe some of the top implications for businesses who aren't sufficiently prioritizing cybersecurity?
I mean, it's unfortunate that you still see this today in organizations. If you're truly not prioritizing cybersecurity, if the chief trust officers, the CISOs do not really have a fundamental seat at the table, your organization is going to experience financial loss. Your organization is going to experience disruption. And when you look at those two components together, you're going to have an impact to your brand and reputation. And I would say probably the most important thing when you sum all of those together is you're going to see an impact to trust. Trust is just paramount right now. Trust with your customers, trust with your employees. And if you impact that, if you truly lose a component of that, then what business are you in, essentially? It's very hard to kind of crawl back from that once it's been impacted.
And Jamie, from your perspective, though, why would folks not have this top of mind? Is it resourcing and education, or is it they've run the risk numbers and the actuarial say, hey, you can tolerate this much risk? What's behind it?
There's always going to be a risk appetite, right? Every organization is going to have a different level of risk. But, I think, John, you nailed it in terms of talent is the number one issue right now when it comes to cybersecurity. I hear it every day, all day from my clients. You cannot hire and cannot find the quality of cybersecurity resources that you need. And so a lot of organizations are sort of, looking at different like hybrid type of solutions to supplement. Either it's supplementing, threat hunting, or it's supplementing, DNR, or it's truly outsourcing the complete component because they just don't have the people. And that's just the reality of where we're at right now.
And if you layer on the fact that you're looking for talent that knows modern security, modern techniques, cloud, public cloud, securing cloud native development. And then you add IT, you add mobility to the whole mix, and those particular kinds of expertise start to become sort of very, very difficult to fill. I think that's probably where automation and adding some more predictive capabilities to our defense stack is imperative. No.
Yeah, and I would say that God bless our threat hunters, right? Because they are truly, the backbone of all of this, right? And the best cyber threat hunter is the one that is most curious, right? So there is an element of subjectivity when it comes to threat hunting, and you want that most curious person in the room that says, this looks interesting. Let me pull on this thread and see where it goes. Finding talent like that is difficult. And so there's such an appreciation for threat hunters today.
Yeah. So, I agree with you ladies 100%. Make a comment on the threat talent part, and then come back to another observation on the prioritization and why people do and don't. On the threat part, we've found, for instance, on the mobile side of things, the threat hunters were usually pretty good across all the traditional platforms. We came over to the mobile side. Our threat researchers, we got a group called Z Labs. They're incredible. But what's amazing is they are specialized down to both platforms. Like, this guy will be an iOS expert, this guy will be an Android expert. But even within that, this guy's an expert in phishing and this guy's an expert in malware. So it's when you start then putting those permutations together and say, how are we going to do threat hunting across that stuff? It goes back, Johnnie, to what you're talking about as well with this. Everybody comes together much more now than they ever did. It used to be, how many different ISACs are out there now, the information sharing groups. Used to be there was only the FS ISAC. Now you've got healthcare and automotive, and everybody's sharing because they have to. You can't keep up with it all, right? Back on the question about prioritization, I agree with you guys in terms of the actuarial tables. Obviously, we all know that the only hacker you're going to face is an auditor. So if you have to deal with compliance, okay, you're going to invest. But when it comes to the other side, I think still, unfortunately, politics and organizational structure is really a significant part of why cybersecurity quite often isn't invested in.
Yeah, it's true. On the sort of like cloud infrastructure side of it, we see a lot. Company wishes to transform, be agile, rolling new custom applications in the public cloud, do it as fast as possible. Security team over here has, policies to be adhered to and what constitutes, baseline requirements for a secure landing zone. The two haven't spoken. And usually we end up being the glue bringing all of them together, because at least my team will help guide them all in the implementation of the security. I did want to sort of go back to the threat hunting for just a minute, though, and the collaboration, and say, we're not just talking about classical threat hunting anymore. We're talking about tiers of expertise. You mentioned some of it. There are folks out there that are expert in particular kinds of threat groups, or APTs. Mm-hmm. So, and going back to the point of, public cloud providers having the kind of resourcing to invest in this research, this is what our customers are looking to take advantage of. So you look at some of the research, for example, with, if you remember Meltdown Spectre and its variants, L1TF, which are hardware-based vulnerabilities and so forth, when you look at who discovered those and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see, Azure, GCP, Oracle researchers, name check. But again, these folks are, hard to find, for sure, to be sure. But they are collaborating with respect to one another, at least relative to the public cloud realm, where we have to, because again, we're in it together.
Mhm.
Yep.
Enjoying this episode? Find other Trending Topics episodes at oracle.com/trending topics.